Simply put, the scarcity rule states that we assign value to things based on how rare they are, based on how hard they are to get, and how likely we are to potentially miss out on the opportunity to get them and to have them. Something in short supply, or something that might not be around for much longer, is therefore more coveted and more desired and considered more valuable. It's a very, very potent principle of persuasion, and without going into lots of the different studies and the research that has been done around this concept, you could trust me and you could trust the research that this is something which is very powerful and very true and works very well. People are motivated tremendously by the fear of losing something, more so they are than the gains of getting something. And this is important to note because this is going to help you phrase and word your messages around scarcity. In a study that was done, I know I told you I won't go into any studies, but here we are. People were much more likely to agree to pay for home insulation when the marketing messages were phrased around what they're going to lose by having insufficient insulation, more than they were, and they were less willing to actually go and insulate their home when the marketing messages were phrased in a positive way by what they had to gain by getting the proper insulation. So remember that concept when it comes to phrasing your own marketing messages and creating scarcity and senses of urgency throughout your bots. Scarcity is a widespread tactic that's used by almost every successful brand, especially e-commerce companies, right? You see Amazon and other e-commerce brands always show only a few items left or a specific number of items left, limited time promotions, and those are the two ways that scarcity usually takes form, in the form of limited quantities, right? There's only a few left of something, making a person feel that if they don't act quickly, we're not going to have any more left for you to have. It could also be used successfully in the form of a promotion that has a deadline, right? So we might not necessarily be conveying that there's a limited quantity of this item, but we are conveying that this special promotion or this sale or this special feature will only be available for a certain amount of time. And when you can combine both of those together, you have something very, very powerful. Scarcity is much more powerful and it works much better when it can be contrasted to recent abundance, as opposed to just conveying that this was always scarce. So you want to say we had, which is why Amazon doesn't just say there's only 10 left. It shows a slider, right? It shows a long line or a bar and a tiny little sliver of yellow or green that indicates this is how much amount of the total we started with are left, right? And this is done on purpose. This is done because they know that when you contrast scarcity with prior abundance, it's a much more powerful and potent motivational factor. And just to take this one step further, this is especially true when the scarcity is a result of social demand as opposed to there being some mistake with inventory or quantities or something like that. So for example, when an e-commerce brand conveys that not only do we have limited quantities remaining, but the limited quantities used to be a lot of quantity, and the reason why there's limited quantity that remains is because people like you have bought it. Wow, you've combined 3 different persuasion techniques over there, and that's how you're going to be successful with marketing. And you could create chatbots that convey these things extremely powerfully and extremely eloquently and extremely effectively. So just take a look at this quick example. I wrote this chatbot as an example for using scarcity in bot design. It says, "Hey Isaac, Jake here from the Oxygen store. Just a friendly reminder that our annual sales event is ending tomorrow morning." Okay, so there you have scarcity in the form of a deadline. The sale is over tomorrow morning. We have a handful of portable oxygen concentrators left at up to 70% off retail. Okay, so that's the second component of scarcity, where not only do we have a deadline on this promotion, there's only a few items that remain at the sale price. But since the sale has been running for 2 weeks now, our supply is extremely limited. This is the contrast principle, right? There was an abundance of time that the sale was running, and now it's almost done. So the abundant contrast doesn't only have to be with regard to quantity of product left, it can also be with regards to how long the sale has been running. Okay, so we have 3 different key components here. Here's the fourth. 325 other athletes gearing up for the 2019 ski season have purchased new units on sale during the past week. So now we're using this concept of social proof, where people like you, because obviously we would be now targeting athletes, and if we have enough data, we'd be targeting skiers. People like you have been buying over the last week. And the fourth concept is that the reason for the scarcity is social demand. we didn't just make a mistake, or we don't just have to get rid of them because they're bad units, or they're defects, or they're scratch and dent. The reason why they're scarce now and they used to be abundant is because people like you have been buying them. It's a very, very powerful message. And you see that a message like this has so much thought and so much analysis that goes into it. Here's a link to our remaining inventory, and there's a link to the final sale. So if this was going to really be fleshed out as a full bot, we would start off with a question, we would use some other principles, but here's a very powerfully concise message of scarcity and urgency that brings in 3-4 really solid persuasive concepts, and a message like this will work, because I've seen messages like this work for our clients over and over and over again. Just a couple different ideas here in the bullet points. Promote limited quantities of popular items. You could send messenger bots out before and during the sale or promotion. So you could gear people up, psych people up through messenger bots and chat blasts before the promotion, and then have a drip campaign running throughout the course of the promotion. Another thing to reiterate, be concrete and be objective. Use actual numbers, use dates. Urgency is created when the urgency is concrete and objective. So don't just say our promotion is ending soon. And if you look at my message, we say that the promotion is ending tomorrow morning. 325 other athletes bought from us in the past week. Be concrete, be objective. It just works much better. Create offers with deadlines, right? So that's a lot of brands sometimes forget about that part. They just talk about there's only a few left. The chance of missing a deal is very, very powerful. It's just as powerful as the chance of missing out once these quantities are gone. And then, again, very important, anchor that sense of urgency to social demand. Like I wrote in this message over here on the right. When the potential prospect realizes or perceives that the reason why things are scarce now, the reason why quantities are limited is because other people like me are buying them, it's much more powerful and much more effective. And then contrast with prior abundance, just a couple different examples. One example is we had 900 pairs of headphones in stock and now we're down to our last 35, contrasting with abundance. We had 50 seats reserved for this seminar and now we have only 3 spots left, contrast with abundance. This sale has been going on for 3 weeks and now we're in our final day, contrast with abundance. So these are just different ways that you could use scarcity in your bot design, and I want you now, before the next lecture, to take a pen and paper or type it out, put together 2, 3, 5, 6. Scarcity should come easy. Whether you're a service business, if you're in e-commerce, I admit it's easier, but it's not impossible to do in a service business. It could be with event registrations, webinar seats, limited number of promotional coupons you're offering for pressure washing decks, whatever it may be. If you're creative enough, I guarantee you could come up with really good, effective ways to include a sense of urgency and create and manufacture a sense of urgency in your chatbot messages using these principles of scarcity, contrasting with abundance, and most importantly, don't forget, the reason for the scarcity should be due to social demand.